The four cornerstones of video gaming include aesthetics, gameplay, music, and story. If a video game is able to get each of these factors right, then you could safely say that your video game is masterclass. And like the word masterclass is just not the word that I would use to describe Zenless Zone Zero. And I just really want to analyze the game to figure out why I think this. And I'll start off by, analyzing the gameplay of the game and why it's fundamentally flawed.
It's over!
Moving on, I am now going to analyze the gameplay of Triple Z, which can be divided into two subsections. For section number 1, we have the TV game mode, and for section 2, we have the actual combat. For the TV mode, I was honestly really impressed with how mechanically intensive the game mode was, and it was really because of the concept it represents. The TV mode is meant to represent what the proxy sees while doing the missions, which I think is so creative and fitting for the video game Triple Z. And it's not only the concept that is so amazing, the gameplay itself is incredibly complex and thought-provoking. I remember wasting hours at a time trying to figure out how to run through the trials and tribulations of the TV mode and level designs and puzzles. The game mode is amazing, and I'm surprised Triple Z could produce something so incredible. However, while the TV mode is incredibly amazing and almost perfect, the combat is dog shit and a blatant ripoff of Honkai Impact 3. As an OG Honkai Impact gamer who has peaked Red Lotus using the Hersher of Sentience with their Divine Key, I would have to say that Triple Z's combat is just a dumbed down version of the cutthroat and hardcore environment, which is the combat system of Honkai Impact 3. The dodge and parry windows are too large, the characters have too much iframes and super armor, and the enemies themselves do no damage. This game is way too basic and easy, and it is comical to compare this piece of trash with Honkai Impact 3. Triple Z's combat is also just so boring and sleep-inducing as a concept and visually. The abilities the characters perform are just so simple, basic, and uninspired. Like for example, in Honkai Impact 3, the Hersher of Sentience's ultimate ability is her shattering the illusion she created by crushing a sphere with chains as she looks down upon her opponents. This ultimate implies that the entire battle beforehand was merely an illusion, and it's also a reference to the main story where she reveals to Kiana that the flashback dream she witnessed was merely a mirage. This ultimate is incredibly pretty and has actual ties to the real life lore of the character. These details are what make Honkai Impact 3's combat so unique and inspired. In Triple Z, however, the greatest ultimate is this dog person flexing his legs, which has no ties to his lore, character, or events of the story. It lacks taste and love, and it is absolutely appalling. Because of this, I'm gonna give Triple Z a 6 out of 10 in the gameplay quadrant. While the TV mode is near perfect, the combat is absolute ass and very bad. To start off with Triple Z's aesthetics, I would have to say that it's very well designed and inspired, but the thing is, everything about this game's aesthetics was blatantly stolen from video game Splatoon made by Nintendo corporations. To name a few things that have been stolen, we have the television aesthetic, the various shops manned by animals, the sketchy store that does criminal activities, the arcade, and even the pieces of fencing placed across the map. All of these examples are pieces of world design that were blatantly stolen from the Splatoon series. And honestly, all of these plagiarized pieces of aesthetic have really just, I don't know, disoriented me while playing Zenless Zone Zero. And to understand why, I'm going to show you some good world design in Splatoon, and I'll show you why it's so disorienting. In Splatoon, you could turn into a squid person, which allows you to move around as liquid, which allows for greater transportation across a variety of obstacles, which is very cool. Because of this gameplay mechanic, fences are placed across the map to encourage players to utilize the squid person mechanic. The fences are justified because there's a gameplay mechanic that requires you to turn into liquid, which allows you to go through the fences. Is very good aesthetic design that ties into the gameplay mechanics. However, since Triple Z stole their entire map without taking the squid person mechanic into account, we are left with a bunch of useless obstacles and fences that have no purpose being in Triple Z. This is confusing because while playing Triple Z, I keep forgetting that there is no squid mechanic, and I keep running into the fences, which is just bad aesthetic design. It's confusing and it wastes my time, and it has no reason to be in this game. Looking at the Splatoon clone also makes me wonder why I'm playing this shitty game when I could just be playing Splatoon instead. Overall, because of these factors, I'm gonna have to give Triple Z's aesthetic a 3 out of 10, which is very tragic and very bad, but well warranted. Moving on, let's go into the music section. Before we start, what the fuck? Before we start, I would like you to look at these two. Before we start, I would like for you to listen to these two audio tracks. Here you go. Fundamentally, these songs are the exact same. Because of this, I'm going to give ZZZ a 5 out of 10 in the music department for stealing all of its music from Honkai Impact 3. This is honestly very disappointing because MiHoYo has much better games to sample their music from. Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail both have amazing soundtracks, yet they decided to sample the worst soundtrack out of the 3 games that they have created so far, which is Honkai Impact 3. It is very disappointing and I'm very appalled. Moving on. For the final section, we have the story, and I could not think of any stories that Triple Z has blatantly stolen from. While that is very good, the story is still dog shit and worse than any other MiHoYo game. From the marketing, I had the impression that the story would be following the Cunning Hares, which is a faction that does odd jobs for the community. But this marketing was just a misleading lie because they were only a part of the story for a short portion of the story. And while this short portion of the story was very good, everything else was terrible, and I don't even care about anything else. That's about it though. I'll give it a 3 out of 10 for the storytelling. Very good. And that wraps up everything. Overall, I'll give Triple Z a 5 out of 10, a very average and uninspired game, which I do not recommend.